Let's introduce you to Tim, a curious young student who constantly questions the mysteries of life. One day, he stumbled upon a fascinating concept: evolution. Intrigued by how it shapes the inhabitants of our Earth, he found himself drawn into its compelling narrative. For him, evolution is far from straightforward. It's a captivating force, painting a vivid picture of organisms adapting for survival in their unique habitats. Through his eyes, we see the cheetah, quicker than a lion, all thanks to evolution. He ponders on the giraffe's long neck, an adaptation for reaching high tree leaves, sculpted by evolution over eons. But what is evolution? Of life? Join Tim in his quest to understand it all. Together, we will explore vibrant visuals and real-time animal examples, such as the transformation of the English peppered moth or the Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands. We will dive into Darwin's theory of evolution, and along with Tim, attempt to demystify these complex aspects of life. What is evolution? Tim, in his quest to understand this term, often linked to life's complexities, jokes about how he wouldn't mind evolving to have an extra pair of hands to juggle his schoolwork and hobbies. Using some real-world examples, evolution can be seen as a gradual, perpetual flow of changes across all living beings, changes passed down through generations. Consider the case of the peppered moth. Predominantly white-winged, evolved into dark-colored moths as a response to the Industrial Revolution in England. This evolution was not only a change, but also survival of the fittest. We can find numerous examples within the kingdom, such as Darwin's finches, which developed varied beak shapes and sizes to adapt and survive in the Galapagos Islands' varied habitats. Evolution encompasses small adaptations, mutations, and significant developments, like the evolution of mammals from reptiles, unfolding at a barely noticeable speed. The result of this phenomenon? The diversity of life forms we observe today, everything from microscopic bacteria to massive whales, simple mosses to highly evolved humans. The term evolution is a lengthy, unceasing process of change and adaptation, spanning hundreds of years. Now, let's delve deeper into understanding how it happens in practice. Let's embark on an adventure into the world of natural selection, a fascinating theory put forward by Charles Darwin. Imagine, if you will, a group of finches on the Galapagos Islands, their beaks of varying lengths coming to life. If the primary food source nectar is concealed deep within flowers, the finches with longer beaks will prosper. They can easily access the nectar, a fact represented by their growing family of offspring inheriting these longer beaks. In contrast, finches' beaks face a struggle, represented by fewer offspring, the environment favoring traits best for survival. Yet natural selection doesn't just impact, it plays a significant role in mating too. For instance, peacocks with vibrant glossy tails, although not strictly advantageous for survival, frequently real-world incidents of natural selection can also be discovered in the medical field. Let the rise of antibiotic-resistant bacteria serve as a reminder that natural selection is a continuous process. Bacteria that can survive antibiotics multiply, while those that are susceptible vanish. One further intriguing example is to camouflage. Observe the screen as it brings this trait to life, demonstrating natural selection in action, favoring traits that encourage survival and thus shaping the rich diversity of life around us. From simplistic traits like the beak sizes in finches to complex ones' color-changing capabilities or the flashy tails of peacocks, continues to mold life on Earth, one generation at a time. What does survival of the fittest truly imply? Through the lens of evolution, it isn't about being the most powerful, fastest, or intelligent. It corresponds to an organism's capability to survive, reproduce, and transmit its genes within its ecosystem, a concept which we'll illustrate with infographics and charts. Let's analyze the scenario of a small, slow tortoise through a comparative chart. Contrary to what one might initially assume, it might be fitter than a larger, quicker hare if it is more optimally adapted. This concept is beautifully summed up in the familiar fable of the tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise, slow but consistent, won the race, whereas the fast yet unreliable hare lost. Taking the camel as a real-life example, to demonstrate how this creature, conditioned to stock water, save energy, and endure severe sunlight, is better suited to desert conditions than a polar bear, regardless of the polar bear's notable size and strength. Even though the polar bear may dominate the Arctic, it would find survival in the Sahara challenging. In the backdrop of a dense forest, a squirrel, due to its agility and ability to swiftly locate and stash food, might be fitter. In a forest fire scenario, A squirrel's rapid reflexes and agility could potentially be life-saving, while a sloth might fail promptly. Fitness also encompasses an organism's ability to safeguard the survival of its offspring. For instance, we'll use a pie chart to show how an octopus, which lays thousands of eggs, stands a better chance of passing its genes on to future generations than a panda, which only bears 1 or 2 offspring at a time. The eagerness of survival, reproduction, and gene transfer propels evolution. We'll use a timeline to trace the history of the peppered moth in England. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, lighter-colored moths were more common. However, as factory soot blackened the trees, darker moths, who were better camouflaged, survived and reproduced in greater numbers. This caused the darker moths to become the dominant variant in the population. So, as you can see from our infographics, survival of the fittest isn't a harsh competition for the most robust. It's about adaptation and survival, where the best-suited species flourish and pass on their advantageous the grand scheme of life. Survival of the fittest wears the crown. What triggers the diversity of life forms we see? Charles Darwin's evolution theory, also known as descent with modification, provides an answer. To envision this, you might think of it as a grand tree of life with countless branches. These branches, representing life forms, evolve and transform over time, all originating from a single life form. Let's take a real-world example: the Darwin's finches on the Galapagos Islands. These birds were originally of the same species but were forced to relocate due to a drastic event. In their new habitat, the food they typically consumed, the finches that could adapt to eat different types of food, survived and passed their genes onto future generations. Over time, these finches have become different from their original group, forming new species. This is descent. The new generations of finches, though descended from the original, have adapted to their new environment. This process, happening continuously all over the world, is responsible for the diverse life forms we see today. From minute organisms like bacteria to giant sea creatures like whales, everything is a part of this gigantic tree of life, interconnected by descent with modification. And it's not just physical characteristics that change, behaviors evolve too. For instance, the complex songs of humpback whales, the unique strategies of Arctic foxes, or the intricate mating dances of birds of paradise, all are shaped by nature and passed down through generations. What started as a single species of bird, for example, has evolved over millions of years into distinct species, each perfectly adapted to their environment. This gives us the diverse array of life forms we see today, all thanks to descent with modification over the eras. Exploring the vast landscape of evolution reveals its role in shaping life on Earth. Think of it as a grand tapestry, with each thread representing life's diversity. Take the Galapagos finches, for instance. These birds are an example of how evolution works, as they evolved different beak shapes to exploit different food sources on the Galapagos Islands. This was the beginning of our journey to understanding evolution, the process guiding species to adapt and thrive. We then studied Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, highlighting how nature favors beneficial traits. Consider the polar bear, which evolved to have white fur for better camouflage in the snowy Arctic, increasing its ability to survive and reproduce in its environment. However, what works in one context might not in another, underscoring the dynamic of survival. A polar bear in a tropical forest wouldn't fare as well. This results in the vast array of life forms we see today. From the colossal to the minuscule bacteria, evolution has sculpted every feature we see. Our exploration then led us to understand how species change over time, highlighting the interconnectedness of all species. Each species tells a story through its genes, just like how the genetic code in human DNA traces our code and human DNA traces our lineage. Evolution invites us to appreciate the complexity and diversity of life on Earth, revealing connections among all species. It's not just about survival of the fittest, but the survival and adaptation of the fit. The peppered moth in Industrial, it adapted to soot-darkened trees during the Industrial Revolution and survived. It underscores the interplay between nature's selection and life's adaptation. In conclusion, the breathtaking diversity of life forms we see, from the vibrant coral reefs to the rainforest, is evolution's way of ensuring survival. And now, we invite you to take action. Learn more about evolution, delve deeper into the scientific theories, and become an advocate for the preservation of our diverse planet. Remember, every species has a story to tell, and we're all interconnected. Share this knowledge and join us in our journey of exploration and understanding. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get notified when I upload.